snuff films. The terrifying idea that people are killing other humans and then filming it for commercial reasons. They're making these snuff films specifically to make money. This has long been a contentious issue in the world of conspiracy theory and the world of true crime. Do snuff films exist? But that question has finally been answered. Because in the year 2025, a real-life snuff film that meets all the qualifications of a snuff film was created. And more shockingly, it's available to the public. Even you can watch the first real-life snuff film. Today on Dead Rabbit Radio. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Dead Rabbit Radio. I'm your host, Jason Carpenter. I'm having a great day. Hope you guys are having a great day too. Hope you guys are having tons of fun doing whatever you're doing. You're like, Jason, wow, that's a pretty happy intro for a dour topic. Yeah, this episode's going to be kind of nuts. I imagine it's going to have some weird mood up and downs. Once again, I'm dealing with computer issues. I'm, at this point, almost got it fixed, but I'm really locked in to what stories I have accessible on my desktop. Everything else is in a shared file, and it's really difficult to access. I almost got it fixed. I've spent about 20 hours real time, like me working, not including me sleeping, trying to get this to be figured out. But anyways, apparently it's a OneDrive security feature that got updated, and a lot of people are dealing with it. So I'm only going to have one story for you today. It's going to be the snuff one. I have a couple other stories on my desktop, but I want to save those for the Halloween episode. We got a Halloween episode coming up tomorrow. So I didn't, I mean, because listen, one of the episodes is going to be unbalanced. We are either going to have one episode where I was simply talking about a man being murdered on film, a real life snuff film. I mean, people have been debating whether or not these have existed for decades, but there is one now. It is undebatable. There is a snuff movie that you can watch. I'm not saying you have to, but it's available to the general public for the first time ever. But we'll talk more about that in a second. So yeah, I'm not going to have another story for you in the beginning. I'm recording this episode really, really late in the day. Dealing with all this computer stuff. I'm also still under the weather. Haven't been feeling great with all my ear infection stuff. And I've realized something that I can do to make myself feel better is I'll play a Battlefield 6. That's a real mood resetter for me. And it's so funny because you wouldn't think so. I'm playing a game where 90% of the player base is better than I am. Constantly getting blown up, ran over by tanks, all sorts of stuff. And I've invited you guys to play with me in the past, but I've never really given out my username. I'll do that now. On Steam, you can find me as Dead Rabbit. On the EA store, whatever it is, the EA login, it's Dead Rabbit Radio. And you'll be able to find me, and maybe we can play together. I'm not always available to be on mic. Sometimes I'm playing and I can't actually talk. Playing at work, right? I'm all playing at work, I'm all sweating. They're all, what are you doing over there? I'm just checking my emails. Come on. Run. Oh, I got hit by a tank. They're like, what? Sometimes I can't talk on my mic, but if you guys want to squad up, I'm always down for it. I think it'd be a lot of fun. It's funny, too, because this is fairly new behavior for me. I usually take video games pretty seriously. In this game, I was just playing right before I decided I gotta put out an episode. Well, here's the thing. I didn't know if I was going to do an episode today because I was having such bad computer problems. I was sitting there and I don't feel good. And I go, maybe I'll just set a note because I'm saying the computer's not working right. Jason, you're playing Battlefield 6. Apparently, your computer can run a brand new video game. Yeah, but, I can't have access to my files. I was going to send out an email and I said, you know what, take a break, play your game. And I'm playing and I'm squatted up with these random people I've never met before. And we're running around. They must imagine they're playing with the most calm man on earth. I'm like, come on, guys, let's go. Shoot. We didn't get the objective. That's okay. I still had fun. That was still a fun round. They're probably like, what? Who is this guy? I'm like, we almost got him. It's so funny because I'm quite jovial. And when I got done, and I'm normally not like that playing these video games, right? I'm normally not like that. But after I got done playing the video game, played it for about an hour, I go, okay, you're in a better mood. You can only do one story. It's quite possibly the most disturbing story you can do. But let's record an episode. So if you guys see me on Battlefield 6, feel free to jump in with Squad Up. I was playing with Art the other day. He's on the Discord. He's always, him and his wife Maria and their kid Artorius. They come to a lot of the movie nights. So I got to play with Art a little bit, and I'd love to keep that up, Art, and play with other people as well. But yeah, no, put me in a good mood. I said, let's put out an episode. Let's talk about a real-life Snuff film. Quite disturbing, but yeah, and then tomorrow's episode, I'll use the rest of the stories I have access to. I can't imagine I'll have full control of my computer tomorrow, but tomorrow we'll do a full-length Halloween episode. We'll do our traditional reading of Teeny Tiny Ghost. We've been doing that for a couple of years. It's a kid's book I found. And then I'm also thinking about for Christmas, I've been bandying this around in my head for a while. I might do a one-man retelling of A Christmas Carol. I think that'd be pretty awesome. Because, Patrick Stewart did it. It didn't look that hard, right? Just did a couple different voices. Arr! I seen it with me own peepers, I did. The Legend of Ebenezer Scrooge. Oh, there he goes right now. Oh, my name's Ebenezer. Jason, you seem really prepared for this. I'm like, what happens next? Oh, yeah. Some guy asks him for money. No, I am not giving you no money. I got all the money in the world, but you get none. And get out of here, hobo. And then Ebenezer Scrooge is walking around. And then, all the different voices of the ghost of Christmas past. I mean, it just sounds like normal people. Seen it with me own peepers, I did, Scrooge. You had a terrible childhood. He's like, Scrooge is all, boo, you're right. And Ghost of Christmas Present, Ghost of Future Christmas Future shows up. It's scary. That's the scary part. And then at the ending, he's, Tiny Tim, what day is it? Oh, it's Christmas Eve, good sir. What? Oh, it's still time to save the world. I saw myself die. 7-year-old, listen to the vision of my grim future. I died and people fought over my bedsheets. But now I'm not dead. So here's the money. He's throwing it out the window. The kid's all getting pelted with it. I roasted it in an oven just for you, Tiny Tim. I heard you liked hot money. Ow, ow, ow. Go buy the biggest Christmas ham possible. Tell everyone in town I'm going to give my money to them. Yeah, see, imagine that for an hour and a half. The story of Ebenezer Scrooge, A Christmas Carol. I've been thinking about it for a couple of years. I've never done it, right? How long have I been talking about doing a remix of the Earth First episode? I still have all your audio files for that. Anyways, that's enough preamble. That's kind of like the lighthearted stuff, right? Because we're going to start talking about this Snuff movie. And you know what? Soupy Poopy Pants will be back for tomorrow's episode, but why don't I toss the keys to you? Catch those keys. And they just fall on the ground. You're like, dude, I really don't want to fly the Carpenter Copter during the Snuff episode, but I guess if I have to, I was like, you do. You do. Also, I heard you liked hot keys. I put those in the oven. You're all, ow, ow, ow. Climb on board the Carpenter Copter as you fire it up. We're leaving behind Dead Rabbit Radio Command. Why don't you fly us all the way out to Vietnam? This is a really interesting story, as gruesome as it is. Super interesting story. Now, I gotta say this right off the bat, because when I make comments like snuff films do not exist, because I've talked about it before on the show, people always push back about that comment. So I'm gonna use the Federal Bureau of Investigation's definition of a snuff film. It's also the same definition that Fangoria magazine uses. The idea is you sit down to make a movie in which you will kill someone for real, and the sole purpose of the movie, or the main purpose of the movie, is to make money. It is a commercial endeavor. It is a movie with a pre-planned murder in it, and the main goal is to make money. So it's a very, very specific definition, and what it does is it cuts out cartel videos, it cuts out terror videos, it cuts out videos of people accidentally getting killed, car crashes, train crashes, plane crashes, things like that, gang shootouts being compiled and burned onto a DVD that you buy. all those videos have people dying for real. But the cartel videos and the terror videos, those are usually to send a message. Someone else may sell them, but the main goal was to send a message. The videos of all the people dying, like Faces of Death and Traces of Death and all of these Too Hot for TV or whatever. I remember watching one of them a long time ago. It was like censored TV or whatever, is people getting killed in train crashes and stuff like that. That was a compilation of real people dying, but it was accidental. They didn't get hit by a train so someone else could make money selling the DVD. Someone is making money selling it, but that wasn't why it was filmed in the first place. War footage, anything like that. So using that definition, it really, really narrows it down. But even then, when the FBI has said for years, snuff films are not real, this is interesting because people who do not believe in conspiracy theories at all, when you say, because I will make this comment, I do talk about this in public, like all the crazy stuff I talk about on the show, I talk about in real life. When I make a comment like there's never been a snuff film, never been a proven snuff film, people go, what? People assume that they're real because it seems so believable. But the fact of the matter is, it's never been proven. Now, here's where we start to get into the weeds with this. There are cases like the Marc Dutrox case, which we covered on this podcast. And he was connected to this whole network of people who were killing children and videotaping it and then selling the videotapes to other people. And these tapes would go for anywhere like $20,000 to $50,000, a ton of money. It was something that only a very small group of ultra-wealthy perverts out in Europe had access to. And that's all in the accusations of this cabal. But the police would say, well, we don't have evidence that those tapes exist. Even though people were coming forward and say there is a tape of this young man who was kidnapped, his young boy really kidnapped, and he was murdered on camera for, well, again, right, it was like this sex sadist cult, but they were also selling it. So what was the main purpose of it? But a lot of people came forward and says there is a specific, because there was a kid who was missing, it might have been from Britain or France. I don't have access to those notes either, because those are buried deep in my notes. I'm kind of just going off the top of my head. You're like, wow, you got a lot of top of your head stuff involving snuff. Well, hold on. So there was a young boy who was kidnapped from one country and they never found him. And people started coming forward and said, well, actually, I know what happened to that kid. He was taken aboard a yacht where he was sexually abused and murdered. And then it was all videotaped. And that videotape has been being sold to the ultra perverted wealthy people. The police, even though a bunch of people said that existed, the police claimed that they never actually saw it. You have a lot of people who kill people on camera. Luka Magnotta. Well, see, that's the thing. So Luka Magnotta, he was that guy who was like torturing cats. He wanted to be famous. And then he ended up getting some guy to come over to his house where he murdered the guy. The actual murder's not on camera. Him abusing the corpse is on camera. So that also eliminates that from being a snuff film. Plus, that was for his... It wasn't for a commercial gain. He wanted to use it to become infamous, which is pretty close, but... There's always been, though, that inkling that, of course, they exist. They're being sold in such small circles that no one will ever see them outside of that small circle. And maybe law enforcement. Maybe. You'll find stuff like that throughout true crime stories. These rumors of this. But even if it did exist, no one outside of that circle could see it. And that's what makes what we're going to talk about so insane. More insane than just an average snuff film. This one you can watch. This one is publicly available. But originally it was for sale. People obviously burned it and released it. Now, I've never seen this video. People were trolling it. Let me go back a couple months. This is how I came to know this story. It was completely unconnected to anything that we're about to talk about. It's probably the summertime. I'm online, and a person or persons, I kind of always assumed it was more than one, was uploading clips of this video around the internet. And I never watched it because the guy would say, hey, you got to watch this. You got to click on this link. You won't believe what you'll see. And it was a Catbox link, which is some sort of file hosting service. I'm guessing. I never clicked on any links. He'd go, you got to watch this. This is insane. And so people who are curious or gullible or both would click on it. And you would start to see comments going, oh my God, what did I just see? Oh, is that AI? Is that AI? That can't be real. What did you just upload? I swear to God, that's the most vile thing I've ever seen. And you'd see these comments, and then other people were asking, what was the link? What was on the link? Because they wanted to know, but they didn't want to click on it themselves. And I would see this same Catbox link pop up from time to time. And one of the people who did click on it and watched it would say, hey, listen, it's a super disgusting video. You do not want to watch it. And they would go into detail, and I'm going to go into detail in a second, but they would describe what the video was, and they'd say, do not click on the link. And some people go, okay, I didn't need to know that. And some people would go, okay, thanks. I was curious, but I don't want to watch that. And other people are like, oh, I got to check it out. I'm totally desensitized to gore. I saw this pop up a couple times over the summer, a lot. Someone was really trolling people, trying to get, hey, you got to watch this hilarious video. Sometimes they just made it seem like it was something on topic. But because people would click on it, they would go, do not click on it. It's the same video. It's this Snuff film that's going around the internet. And still people would be like, oh, I want to see. I'm really scared, but I want to see. And I saw this. Not the video, but I saw these posts pop up pretty regularly. Now, I'm going to describe the Snuff video here if you don't really want to hear about it. This is really the only time I'm going to go into detail with it. It's fairly short, but you can fast forward, say, 30 seconds a minute. I'm not going to go into vast detail, but the video is this, based on the descriptions and the news article that was written about it a few months later. That's really where we're going to examine the origins of this video. It's just not me talking about something gross online. The story gets even more bizarre than a snuff film that's available to the public. The video is this. It's a Vietnamese man, we believe, a Vietnamese man masturbating. And right when he climaxes, you see a hand holding a meat cleaver swing down and hit the man on the neck 3 times. And that is enough to remove the man's head. The meat cleaver digs into his neck 3 times, and then this off-screen killer pulls the man's head off. Now, the video is real. You may go, oh, that sounds a little comical, a little Looney Tune-ish. The video is real. It has been authenticated as far as that. It is a real murder caught on camera. There's no debate of whether or not it's AI or it's a body double or there's some sort of edit in there. It is a real murder. So that is why I didn't watch it. I don't click on random links online anyways, especially to, well, I'm having trouble with OneDrive anyways, but anything like that, any file hosting thing, I don't ever click on stuff like that. It's a real murder. And this had been going around for a while, click on this link. Sometimes the guy would try to make it sound like it was funny. Sometimes the guy would try to sound like some leaked movie scene or whatever he thought would get people to click on it. That's what he was doing. And people were clicking on it, and that's what they were seeing. Something absolutely brutal. Well, anyways, months later, that kind of died down. The trolling kind of died down. I stopped seeing it. I'm assuming they just started banning anyone who posted that. So if it was up, it would be gone pretty quickly. Well, fast forward a couple months, I'm doing my daily reading all the news articles I possibly can. For one, just because I love to read articles, and then 2, content for the show. I came across an article in Vice. Vice.com, the website, had an article by a writer named Ben Ditto called "A Vietnamese Murder Has Given the World Its First Real Snuff Movie." Wow, that's interesting. And I start reading the article and I go, oh, I know that clip. Just from how he was describing it, I go, that was the clip that was floating around the internet. as a troll trap. So you go, Jason, wait a second. So you said it was being posted all over the place for free, but a snuff movie is something made specifically for, or mostly the main purpose is for monetary gain. Why would Vice declare this the first real snuff film? It's very interesting reporting by Ben Ditto. What happens is this video started popping up online, and it enraged people, right? People don't like to see that stuff, especially if they don't see it coming. Today, I know there's some stuff going on in Rio de Janeiro between drug gangs and the police. I guess there's a pretty intense military battle going on. And when I was looking up information on that, I was shown a photo of a woman, and she was dressed in some sort of military or paramilitary uniform. I don't know who she was fighting for, but her head was blown off, and one of her arms was just shredded. I don't want to see that. Right? I, of course, watched all the stupid not all of them, but, you watch those crazy, too hot for TV car crash videos when you're younger, but not everybody does. But then, you're just looking through stuff, and I don't want to see that. I remember a long time ago, I was doing a story about, it's one of still my favorite episodes of the podcast, a long time ago, because it was a true crime case that just nobody ever talks about. But a babysitter who was murdered. I think she was 12 or 13. She was murdered while she was watching the kid, and they never caught the killer. They think they know who did it, but he just died 70 years later of emphysema or something like that. And I'm reading this really in-depth true crime article about it, and I'm scrolling down, and I was like, dude, I've never heard of this. This is so terrifying. It's something from a horror movie. A babysitter being killed in the house while she's watching the kid, and as I'm scrolling through, the website is the true crime website. I keep scrolling, and then there is the photo of a dead 12, 13-year-old girl. Crime scene photo. I don't want to see that. You definitely don't want to see that on accident. So, what was I talking about? I know I'm talking about snuff film, but I kind of got off track. So, so people were enraged about this because people had found out about it. Some of them had been tricked into it. Some of them viewed it on purpose. They knew what it was, and it's so disturbing that immediately a group of internet sleuths began to try to find out who made this video, who was the victim, who's the killer. And that is when something happened that made this truly look like it might be the real very first snuff film available to the public. This video has a practice run. What's going around online is the clip of the murder itself, but there's a full-length video. And then there's other videos as well. It's basically a collection that was being sold on Telegram, the messaging service. They were selling it on Telegram. And it showed, a practice run. You saw the victim totally chill, just kind of sitting there, as a gloved hand motions with the same type of blow he's going to give to the man. So there's a practice run. After the practice run is done, you see the killer reach down and hug the soon-to-be murder victim. So this guy was not a cat. As far as we can tell, people think they've identified who the victim was. But as far as we can tell, this guy went into it knowing what was going to happen. He wasn't a captive. He might have been, but again, what we think we know, he wasn't a captive. He wasn't kidnapped or anything like that. Apparently, he wanted this to happen. So we have a practice run, but then the murder itself, there are multiple camera angles of it. It had more than one camera. It was they were trying to get the best angle of it. And the fact of the production quality, as far as that goes, actually trying to figure out, where to get the best angle, they're going to do this. They only got one take. The fact that the guy was willing to be a part of it. The fact that initially, before it started floating around for free, it was the only way you could get it was to buy it from Telegram for, I don't know how much it was, but a lot of times these types of movies go for $20,000, $30,000. The most infamous, and it was not really a snuff film because the child lived, but the most infamous was so bad, people thought it was a myth. They ranked it up there with The Grifter or what's the other one? They had Satan's Pyramid or Sad Satan or something like that. There was always these rumors of these movies that were so dark and disturbing that if you watched them, you would go mad. And they were just, people would kind of throw them out as a meme, as a joke. But one of them turned out to be true. It was called Daisy's Destruction. And the girl survived. It was not considered a snuff film, but that video was going online for around 20 grand. It wasn't available anywhere on the surface web. Again, for decades, people thought it was an urban legend. And now Daisy's Destruction is so, there was that reality show on TLC or whatever called like 8 is Enough or 8 Kids and Counting, 12 Kids and Counting. They kept having more kids. They kept changing the name of the show. It was the Duggar family. And one of the male members of the family, an adult, got accused of sexually molesting his sisters. If I remember correctly, again, I don't have my notes in front of me. It's all just off the top of my head. But he got he got busted for molesting his sisters when they were kids. The girls came forward as adults and they said he'd been doing this stuff. And then it turns out that he had been caught with child pornography at one point. His father took, I think it was Josh Duggar. It was one of the Duggars. Josh sues me. It wasn't him, but it was one of the Duggar boys. He's an adult now. But when he was younger, a young man, he got caught viewing child pornography. His father takes, or maybe he got caught molesting one of his sisters. But whatever the case, the father takes his Duggar son to a police officer that they know personally. And the three of them chat about it. And the police officer who they know personally does not report the matter any further. They didn't go to the officer to get him in trouble. They went to the officer to kind of counsel him. And that was kind of that. For years, I think it was, he was molesting his sisters, and the dad took him to the cop, and the cop's like, you can't do that, son. You know how bad that is, da-da-da-da-da. Well, then fast forward 20 years, whatever. The girls come out and say publicly what had been going on. It didn't stop. This particular Duggar male was caught with child porn. And it turns out the police officer that the family talked to was also caught with child porn. Insane. Absolutely insane. But I remember reading about the Duggar trial. Reading, because, true crime, all that stuff. Reading about all of this stuff. And they say when he was arrested and he had this child pornography with him, the articles would say it was the worst of the worst, including one of the most infamous videos ever made, Daisy's Destruction. So it went from an myth, a lost media, not even lost, people thought it was made up, to being reported when a star of a TLC show gets arrested. And they say he got it from the dark web. Now, I don't know if he bought it. I don't know if he downloaded it. I don't know. But I do know that copies of that video initially were going for around 20 grand. And so that's also why and the girl didn't die. Thankfully, she did not die. She lives. But that's why when I say this is a snuff film that people can watch, because this is not a $10,000 or $5,000 snuff film. People were selling this on Telegram, and it seemed, they didn't give a specific price, but it seemed to be fairly, this is the wrong word, but quote unquote reasonable. You know what I mean? So now we're talking about a snuff film that the average person could afford, and now it's just floating around there for free. Just like when Tron Ares comes out of the movie theater, within a day or two, you can watch it online. But Tron Ares was made for commercial purposes. And the fact that people are watching it now for free doesn't negate that original thing. And you go, well, Jason, you keep saying that it was made for commercial purposes, so have they caught the guy who made it? Really, you're just kind of going off the fact that it seemed to have fairly high production value, and initially it was being sold. Is that the main reason? Well, that is the going theory. That is the going theory, but we haven't caught the guy. These are the clues so far as to where the video was made and who made it and so on and so forth. These internet sleuths, these are what we believe to be true. Both men in the video, the victim and the off-screen perpetrator, seem to be speaking in a regional Vietnamese accent. these detectives, internet detectives who are gladly giving their free time, which is amazing, because hopefully we stop this, because this may not be the only video. But they've tracked down the store that sold the floor tiles in that video. They've been able to track down the brand of the cleaver used, the brand of chopsticks seen, and I forgot about that. So after he is killed, so the short video that was going around initially was just the murder. The longer video has the practice run, has these multiple angles, or I think additional videos have it from different angles. The man is killed. They then show him being dismembered, the body parts being stacked up. And then towards the end of this video, there is a scene of a dish of food, like a traditional Asian dish. And in it, when the chopsticks are nearby the dish, in this traditional dish, there is an unidentified meat. So it's possible that the man was eaten after he was killed. Now that I'm looking up at my notes a little bit more, I want to say this. So this video, there are 11 different video clips of this single event and 98 photos. And you've been able to, not you, okay, and people have been able to buy them either on the dark web or Telegram channels since February of 2025. That's when the video first surfaced and people were able to buy this video. So first off, you did have to buy it, and now parts of it are showing up for free. So, but the chopsticks in the video, people have said, so they're trying to narrow this down. Right now, the going theory is the murder took place somewhere in either central or northern Vietnam, possibly Cambodia. But because it has so many connections to Vietnam, the video is known as the Vietnamese Butcher. Really, the only information they have to go on as far as the killer, there was a monk that some internet detectives originally accused, and he has publicly come forward and said, I'm not that guy. I didn't do this murder. I have nothing to do with that. And he says that he was being accused of something he didn't do, which very well may be true, right? It'd be terrifying to get an accusation like this. The really only concrete, obviously you can hear the man's voice, but you just see his hands, his arms in the video. On his arm, he has a tattoo, and it's 13-9. So we don't know much about the killer at all. But we believe that we know a lot about the victim. And if this is true, it just puts a whole new insane spin on this story. The going theory is that the victim is a man named Nguyen Xuan Dat. He's a Vietnamese man who has a pretty big internet presence in the cannibal community. Cannibal community, murder community, sadism community. This person, he uses the username on there's a website called Motherless, which I think is like a, and I don't know exactly what it is. Again, when I'm doing stories like this, I'm a little more hesitant how far I pursue the story. But anyways, there's a website called motherless.com or motherless.org or whatever it is. I don't know if it might be motherless.darkweb or .onion, but the Motherless site, this user goes by the name Dat Beheading. And he constantly talked about wanting to get his head chopped off. There are people who have come forward who said that they know Nguyen Dat. And they go, yeah, he was really into the whole getting his head chopped off scene. It was they didn't say this, but I'm going to say it was like a fetish. This is what he wanted. One of the things someone said, again, hats off to the awesome reporting by Ben Ditto, because he did go to a lot of these sites and he did talk to some of these people. But, the article goes on to say that one of the things was Dat Beheading wanted to see if he could get a Vietnamese translation of a manga called Applicant for Death, which is a comic book, Japanese comic book, about people who, if they pay the right amount of money, they get to choose the way that they die. So we have a guy named Dat Beheading who's in the beheading community, in these fetish forums, in these websites, talking about being able to choose how he dies, talking about wanting to get his head chopped off. There was a private message that Dat sent to another user, and this is what... before I read this to you, this is really interesting, right? Because you got this weird fetish, this fetish to die in a particular way. We've covered things like this before on this show. Really, one of the most famous ones, I think the one that kind of made people aware of it in the first place, was the Armin Muse thing. That was the cannibal, I think it was in Germany. He ate a guy. He wanted to eat this guy, and he met a guy on a cannibalism fetish site that wanted to be eaten. So they worked it out, and Armin murdered the guy and ate him. If I remember correctly, he was cutting pieces off of the victim and they were eating him together or something like that. Like, again, this is just all off the top of my head. Very famous true crime case because it's so disturbing. And the defense was, oh, no, he wanted to be eaten. And that's when a lot of people kind of came to this idea that there's people out there who have a fetish. It's a fetish that can only be fulfilled once. It's a fetish to die. The first time I came across it was way earlier. I think we covered this on the podcast, but it's considered the very first murder linked to the internet. I think it was like 95 or 96. I'll see if I can find the episode I talked about it, or if not, maybe some article. But a woman, she was happily married. Well, they thought she was happily married, but she was married. But she was having an affair online with a guy. And this is the early days of message boards and whatever it was. You know, you're typing stuff out on a black and white screen. They might have been using AOL chat. But anyways, my point is that she wanted to be murdered. She wanted to be murdered, and she met a guy who would make that fantasy a reality. So one day the husband came home and he couldn't find his wife, and a huge missing persons case. And the police are like, well, where could she have gone? They had no clue. And so they go, well, you know what? Why don't we check the computer? And this was like the first time they ever thought of that. And they found all these emails and all these, I don't even know if it was emails, it might have predated that, but all of these messages to some dude in another state talking about how badly she wanted to get murdered. So they went and they found the guy, and he goes, well, she wanted it. And they go, that's not how the law works. I remember hearing about that case back when it happened. And that was the first time I was like, what, people have a fetish that can only fulfill a single time, a fetish to die in a particular way. And you think about how that came about. To me, it's even bizarre that there are cannibalism fetishes to begin with. I mean, I know there's a fetish for anything, but I guess the desire to be eaten is more odd to me. The desire to be eaten, because again, it can only be done a single time. And I can't really wrap my head around that. So let's look at, I mean, again, we don't know much about Dat. But he has this quote that he sent to somebody that might give us a little bit of a clue. If not into why he developed this fetish, into the mind of a man who is willing to be chopped up on camera. Here's this private message from Dat to another user. Quote, not only am I ugly, but I'm also full of diseases. I can't afford to live freely like normal folk. I have to depend on my parents my whole life. What else could I do? I truly am a prisoner of my own fate. If it wasn't because of God, I would have ended my life already. I wish to meet someone that, once we've become close enough, could kill me, because I really wanted to make friends with such people. But I know that once I've done that, I won't be normal again. I want to die. Unquote. You go on quite the roller coaster, right? So he had this fetish, and that's one thing, but we have a man who's so deeply unhappy with life. The only reason he's still alive, from what I'm guessing from this, is that his religion frowns upon suicide. Or maybe just his personal connection to God. He would have killed himself long ago if he didn't have this belief that God would not like it if he killed himself. Deeply unhappy. People have wondered if he actually was dying, because he says, I'm riddled with disease. Whether that was a metaphorical thing, or the fact that he was actually dying, so what did he care? He'd rather go out the way he really wanted to than die a slow death in some other way. Or maybe not even die, but, become disabled or something like that. We don't know. People are still really trying to figure out who this guy is. That could give them a clue to who the murderer is. But he's deeply depressed. It says something very interesting at the end as well. He goes, I really want to make friends with people who would be willing to kill me, but once I do, I'll never be normal again. And this is very interesting because that is crossing a Rubicon. Or Rubicon? Maybe you don't hit the eye so hard, but it really is crossing the Rubicon. And it's one thing to kind of hang out in a bad neighborhood. You get to know some of the gangbangers there. But once you start really palling around with them, you're going to find yourself in situations that normal people aren't in. And then you find yourself making a choice, and there's only one choice to make. There's actually not a second choice, and that is keep your mouth shut. Because you've seen things you can't talk about. Very astute to say that once he starts hanging out with those people, everything's different now. And he knows that. Well, it appears that he did find somebody like that. It appears that he did find a quote-unquote friend, and he did get his wish, as unfortunate as that is. I mean, really, at the end of the day, it's suicide. Suicide at the hands of another person, but he clearly wanted it based on all of this. Now, a lot of back-end information on this that I haven't been able to verify. These are the people that Bandito has talked to and researched and stuff like that, but it could not be Dat, right? There could be a different guy who also wanted to get beheaded, and it's not this guy. What's interesting is the guy who now currently runs Dat's Facebook account claims to be the man who murdered him. Let's wrap it up like this. I thought this was a chilling ending to the article, and we'll end the episode with this as well. There's not a lot of stuff I can say at the end of it. I kind of think we've dissected it, no pun intended, during the course of the episode. I don't think it needs a big, long wrap-up at the ending. But anyways, Bandito writes this, quote, Bandito says, what's happening is we are starting to see more videos, not necessarily in the exact same location, but there have been more videos coming out recently showing Asian men being butchered. And you could ask the question, well, is that the Vietnamese butcher? Is that the same guy killing other people? Or, we see this with Temu. There's a big hit in the cannibal culture. People know about this video. People are selling it. So you would have knockoffs. These are real people dying. I'm not saying like they're just killing mannequins. But it's not the same guy. Who knows? It could be the same killer. Other people could be trying to ape off of the success of the first video. It really doesn't matter because at the end of the day, people are dying. Whether or not it's the same killer or it's a bunch of people just trying to get a little money for themselves while this is hot. It's still men dying, but so we have that going on. There's more video surfacing of Asian men being butchered. I don't know if it's the same setup as far as the masturbation and describing all of that stuff. But it doesn't seem to be that it's people being killed and then uploaded. It seems to be that it actually, the purpose is we are filming a murder for money. It's not like they're taking random videos of people getting killed and compiling them. Bandito, but I haven't seen the videos, right? I haven't seen any of the videos. This is Bandito reporting, and he ends his article like this, quote, in the process of researching this story, Vice spoke to a Chinese distributor of hardcore clips on Telegram. They offered to sell us access to groups in which tens of thousands of users share thousands of image packs with themes including heavy necrophilia, mortuary footage, drugged rape, and worse. While The Vietnamese Butcher may be the first authentic Snuff movie, it is unlikely to be the last. Unquote. It's just kind of it's a creepy, disturbing, and sad story. And it's funny because it plays out in that way. When I first saw people talking about this video, it was just kind of disturbing, but there's so much gore out there. But even when you were just reading the description, there was something, obviously you picture it in your head, and we don't know any of the backstory. I was thinking, did this guy know it was coming? Did the victim know it was coming? And that's disturbing. And then you think about it, it's creepy that it's just even getting made in the first place, and that someone's trying to troll people with it. But then it becomes sad when you start to look into the life of the victim. It's kind of, you know what I mean? Like, it kind of takes you through that journey. And you wonder, are these other purported victims of these other videos, are they also wanting it? I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's just suicide at the hands of another. And then again, like, what happens if this is a money-making venture and you run out of willing participants, but you're making too much money to quit? Are you just going to hang up the meat cleaver? And it goes back to the core question, is this the world's first authentic snuff movie? In Vice's Instagram page, they changed it. I saw a lot of people make reference to something and I couldn't find it, but originally they called this a milestone in the genre. And people found that very, very offensive terminology to use when you're talking about something with a snuff film. And, you know, I kind of see their point. I kind of see the people's point. It is interesting because this is something, the very first idea of a snuff film was in the year 1907. And it was a fictional story about a group of reporters going, you know what makes really good news? People getting killed. So why don't we kill somebody and film it, and then we'll be rich and famous because we'll be the guys who broke this big story. It was a fictional story. It's been around pretty much since the invention of the camera. A photograph doesn't really do it because it's just a moment in time, but you have a camera and you can go from start to finish. That's how long the idea of a snuff film has been around. And they have existed. They absolutely have. The FBI can say what they want, but it kind of has their head in the sand. Fangoria is fine, right? I mean, it's a fun magazine, but it's not like they're setting laws. The FBI says there's no such thing as a snuff film, but they know that every single person who knows what a snuff film is knows that at one point or another, at least one of these has existed. Absolutely. Someone was murdered on purpose, and I keep saying sold, and the main reason was to make money. There was other reasons to satiate a psychopath's sexual desires or sense of power over a victim or whatever, to relive the experience. But they made it specifically to make money, and then they have these other agendas behind it. Of course, those have existed before now. But this is, if this truly is a snuff film, and people, just the way that it was produced and the way that it was initially introduced, it was for sale. It was for sale rather than just a collection of clips. Someone made this and then sold it. This may be the first snuff movie that's available to the general public. It's not something that's sitting on some billionaire's yacht right now, some old weathered videotape of a kid who was killed back in the late 80s, early 90s. No, this is available to the general public. In fact, it's so available, people are using it to troll other unsuspecting people on the internet. I think it is right to assume that if this is the first, quote-unquote, first real snuff movie, it won't be the last. And they're just going to be pumped out faster and faster and faster. And as long as law enforcement says they don't exist, it is going to be up to internet citizens to track these people down, to find out what is going on and to put an end to it. Because I agree with this article. This is just the beginning. If The Vietnamese Butcher is the first authentic snuff film, it will not be the last. Unless people, ordinary people, step up and stop it. DeadRabbitRadio@gmail.com is going to be our email address. You can also hit us up at Facebook.com/DeadRabbitRadio. TikTok is at Dead Rabbit Radio. Dead Rabbit Radio is the daily paranormal, conspiracy, and true crime podcast. You don't have to listen to it every day, but I'm glad you listened to it today. Have a great one, guys.